Hello everybody. Welcome to Somatic Self Healers. My name is Leah McQuaid and I'm just super excited you're here. And I'm excited to jump into our topic today, which is all about being stuck in survival mode and not knowing from here, but learning and knowing from the rest of the body that you're not broken. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. If you're in a stressed survival response, trauma response state, right? And so before we jump into a little bit of the learning around this today, I want to offer a moment just for all of us to land. Just land where you are. Notice what's underneath you, what's supporting you right now. Is it the ground? Is it the seat of your car? Is it your bed, the couch? Just kind of notice what's holding you. And then invite in even more holding. More holding, not in the body, but what's underneath you. Allow what's underneath you to hold you more. So that might mean softening into places you might feel braced or constricted or tense, and see if you can invite in even just 1% or 5% of a softening. And we're gonna work into this even more at the end of our time together, towards the end when we do our healing portion of the Somatic Self Healers. But let's get into a little bit of this idea of survival response, right? This idea that we've got stress and it lives inside our body, right? And guess what? That's how it's supposed to be, right? That's how the stress response is designed. It's designed to be a reaction. Some chemicals, some hormones come together, right? And when those chemicals come together, it allows us to be alert, to fight, to flee, to move away from the threat, the external threat or the internal threat, whatever it is. Threat can be external or it can be internal, right? And so when that threat is present, our body reacts, right? Our body reacts in that fight or that flee, right? So that energy that is very active, it's mobilizing, and that's what it wants. That's what it wants. It wants to be mobilized, right? And if there's not an opportunity to mobilize, if we can't fight or we can't flee the situation, then it freezes. So that's where freeze comes in, right? And the most important thing for today, right, to know and to remember is that that response is exactly how the body is designed to respond. When we're running from that saber-toothed tiger, right, back when we were in our primal days, right, that allowed us to survive. That response allowed us to survive, right? And so it's nothing wrong with you. You don't need to fix it. It's not a problem, right? Until, right? It's not a problem until it gets stuck on. And the only reason why it's a quote unquote problem is because then we start to have symptoms, right? We start to burn out, where we want to burn everything down, right? We're like, I'm done, I'm burnt out, I want to burn my whole life down. And I've been in that place many, many times, right? Where we notice we snapped at the kids for the 12th time. We're not sleeping for nights and nights and nights, right? Yeah, so when that response gets stuck on, right, is where we start to have symptoms. And that's where it becomes a challenge, right? And I would even argue it's not even really a problem, right? The response itself isn't a problem, right? But we get into this place where we want to control the problem, right? Or we want to control the stress response because we think it is a problem, right? So we think it needs to be controlled. It needs to be fixed. We need to always be calm, right? We need to always be peaceful, right? And there's like this energy behind it. You can like hear it in my voice, and when I talk about it, it's like this. It causes even more constriction in my body. Causes even more of the stress response when we respond with the stress response in this way of like, I need to fix it. I need to be calm. I'm trying, right? It's like, you don't actually have to try. Like, what the response wants from us, right, is a softening, an understanding, like my hands just want to go on my heart, right? Because it's like I want to nurture that part of me, right? Like, oh, it's a lot of stressed energy in my body, right? It wants an exhale, right? And so much of the self-improvement world is like this drive to get it right? This drive to self-improve. Like, and there's a place for that. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But it kind of creates this sort of performative too. Like, I gotta do all these things so that I can be calm and I can be peaceful, and so I can keep doing all the things, right? It's like there's kind of a loop we get in around this, right? And so how do we start to come back into that place of softening and remembering? Because that's really what it is. I say come back to, because there's a place within us, even if that stress response is activated and is stuck on, there's always wisdom in our body and places in our body where we can go to and turn to feel that coming home, that exhale. Maybe we do that now, right? So letting this land in your body. Maybe you put your hands on your heart like I am. Right? It's just landing this information in your body. I'm recognizing now and for the next however long we're together, 10, 15 minutes, right? That you get to put down, take out some of the load, right? Like put down some of that load you're carrying, take out some of the heavy rocks, right? And maybe you start with a pebble, and that's okay. That's okay. Start with taking a pebble out of that heavy, heavy backpack that you've been carrying. Okay, and it just starts right now in this moment by exhaling, right? And so one of the ways that we start to open to the possibility of softening and the possibility of orienting to our stress response in a different way, because that's really what we're doing, right? We're starting to perceive our stress response in a different way, right? It could come with symptoms, which can be hard because those symptoms are hard, right? The autoimmune flare-ups, and maybe you don't even want to call them symptoms, right? Maybe they're just habitual responses, those behaviors that you keep repeating, right? Either the things you want to be doing or the things you aren't, or the things that you're doing that you don't want to be doing, right? Maybe those self-sabotaging patterns, right? But when we start to reorient to the stress response, it's one of the most impactful things that we can do to start to shift the stress response, right? Because nothing heals in that space of, I gotta do this and I gotta check it off my list, right? Like already, like, ooh, like my body already, when I say that, like I wanna pull in and I wanna limit myself in a way, right? And so what we're looking for is that little bit of softening and opening that comes when we recognize that however the stress response is active in our life, through symptoms, through blaming our partner, through eating half a cake, right? That all of those behaviors, those controls, right, are just the body telling you that it wants a little bit more softening and opening and easefulness, right, within the body, because the stress response happens in the body, right? So this is where the somatics come in. And the first place that we're going to start with our practice is with this idea of releasing, letting go, discharge, right? And we're not releasing in like a peak experience way, okay? That's different. That's different, and one peak experience oftentimes gets us on the snowball, and then we want all these other peak experiences. That's a whole nother topic, right? But what I'm talking about is starting to release what sits on the top there. What sits on the top? And oftentimes it's that fight or flight response, right? That active energy that's sitting at the top. It's like the foam on the top of your latte, right? So we want to work through that foam on the top of the latte before we can get to like the good coffee at the bottom there, right? It's like we got to work through that foam on the top of the latte. And so that's what we do with release, discharge, let go type practices, right? And these practices are so foundational, not foundational in like, oh, that's so nervous system 101. I'm beyond that, because that's been me, right? Like that's been me. But they're foundational in that we'll want to come back to them again and again and again and again, really every day essentially, right? It's like brushing your teeth. You can't brush your teeth, and this comes from my teacher, Elisha Tischel, right? Like you can't brush your teeth in the morning, eat all day, and then think that your teeth are going to stay clean, right? So it's the same way with the stress response, right? We can't live our lives going about our lives, yeah, and not expect for us to have to release, let go of some of the stress that we picked up throughout just living our lives, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and start practicing. So let's just start with some breath, some movement, and sound. That's how I like to orient around the discharge release practices, right? So you might start with that breath that we began when we started, where we're inhaling and sighing it out. And what wants to come through for me right now is my shoulders. I want to inhale deeply and then just let my shoulders relax. That feels really nice. Inhale. Exhale. And I invite you to continue this movement if you'd like. That breath and that exhale. And what you'll find as you do more and more discharge is that there's certain practices that are your go-tos, and those are important, right? So keep going. Those are important to develop in your routine, in your nervous system hygiene, so to speak, right? And so if you're brand new to this idea of discharge and release, you can always go to my insight timer, right? And in fact, I'll post it at the bottom here. So you can go to my insight timer for an idea of what I mean and get your own ideas going and flowing with discharge, right? Like, in fact, you can always just dance as a beautiful discharge, right? And wiggle and shake. It's a really nice one too. So maybe take a moment to do that. Just wiggle, shake. I love this flowy thing I'm wearing. It's fun to dance with flowy stuff on, right? So we're continuing now, the breath, right? The movement. And so I also really like heel drops, right? Where I'm coming up on my toes and then dropping on my heels. Now, you might be lying down. You can do a version of these lying down or sitting in a chair, right? If you're in the car because you're waiting to pick the kiddos up or whatever it might be, right? You can do a version of these while you're sitting or even lying down, right? Yeah. If you're lying down, you might put the soles of your feet on the earth and then just pick up your heels and then just gently place them back down, right? And then I also want to invite, if for whatever reason, movement and mobilization isn't accessible right now, right? You can visualize yourself doing these, right? You can also make smaller movements. And sometimes I notice in myself where I'm at that starting with these more dynamic movements don't serve me, but starting slower, right? And if that's the case, you can kind of start by rubbing your upper body, right? Rubbing your upper body, rubbing your arms. You can bring your palms together. Brace your palms together and squeeze. Push your palms together. Activating your arms just to help bring some activation in your muscles, right? Yeah, so there's a lot of practices we can do, and we're gonna keep working through discharge release practices, twice a month as we come together, so that you can continue to build the practices that work for you and building them into your life, right? Because we can do these practices in a real formal way. We put them on our calendar. We do them every day at the same time. We do them once a week, once a month, doesn't matter, right? The consistency of these practices is what really matters, right? Is that you're doing the practices. And we can also do them in a really informal way, right? Where we're doing the dishes and we're adding some sound, right? Through horsey lips. I love horsey lips, right? Right? Yeah, so you can add them both formally and informally. Okay, so now that we've drank the foam on the top of the latte, we're gonna go ahead and move into some down regulation, right? Just to help bring even more settling and calm into our system, right? Not because you need to, right? But because you have choice, right? And you're choosing in this moment, right? And maybe not. Maybe you're not choosing. Maybe you're like, okay, I'm done with this, or you got distracted, or you have to do something else. That's cool too, right? That's also a choice, right? But if you're choosing to stay, we're going to start bringing the system down even more, right? Softening and opening even more, right? And so I'm going to do that with the tuning forks today. And I've got two forks, the 144 and the 222. So So you might bring a little bit more sound as you're softening your body and making some sound. And oftentimes when I play the forks, I will breathe often as a way to just move energy. Right? And so I invite you to also take those deep breaths with that sound on the exhale, really bringing your breath down to your feet. Nothing else you need to do in this moment. And you might think about what's alive for you right now. How dialed up are you? So if your stress response was like a dial, a knob, a volume knob, are you all the way up to 100? Maybe you're 50, or maybe you're even less than that. And what I invite for the next 10 or so minutes as we continue to bring some regulation, some safety, some okayness into the body through my voice, through the sound of the forks. I invite you to invite yourself to bring the dial down. And without expectations. So this is just an invitation. We use language like invite, and we stay curious about the possibility of bringing that volume down. It helps orient us to the possibility of opening and softening. And that's what I invite. I invite an invitation to yourself and a curiosity rather than a needing to do something, a needing to get regulated or calm or relaxed, right? Rather than needing to be a certain way, just inviting in a being with however you are. And if you notice as you begin to soften some of the bracing in your body, soften some of the constriction, the tension, the tightness. If you notice as you soften that your body wants more discharge, wants more movement, absolutely, by all means. By all means, coming back to breath, movement, or sound as a way to Release, discharge, let go. Beautiful. I'm just going to move to the 144 for a moment. And just listening in. Continuing to let your body be aware, just noticing what you notice in your body. And just smoothing out and harmonizing the stress response. Yeah, so there's a real energy and vibration I'm sensing. It's like a stop, go, stop, go, stop, go, or flip flop, or like a go, 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 crash. Yeah, so just inviting you, if that resonates, and maybe it doesn't, and that's okay. If it does resonate, right, inviting you to find your breath, right? Find that rhythmic breath. Whatever this is, this pattern, right? It lives in the body. So I'm picking up the signals of the body through the fork. And so just inviting rhythm into the breath. I use rhythm a lot with the breath because anytime, there's an incoherence, there's waves that rather than being fluid up and down or a little bit more jaggedy, and that's really kind of what I'm hearing, right? Like rather than like up and down and up and down, because that's really how the nervous system's supposed to, quote unquote, supposed to be, right? Stress comes in, we're in the sympathetic, and then we come back down and we're in the parasympathetic. And then if life happens, the stress comes in and we mobilize that stress so we can come back to parasympathetic, that rest, digest. But what I'm sensing, there's a up and then a really fast down, and then up and then a down. And it's exactly what the fork is picking up on. Nice big deep breath. Let it out. Yeah. So what if in this moment you invited a steadiness of that rhythm? And the breath, when it's rhythmic, can help with that steadiness, right? Because the inhale is that sympathetic, and then the exhale is the parasympathetic. So the activation and then the come down and the rest, right? And that's how the breath is. So when we can bring flow, inhale, exhale, and rhythm, inhale, exhale, and going at your own pace. You can even think about inhale on the inhale, exhale on the exhale. And when you can bring that rhythm into your system, right, it can bring less of the mountains and the peaks, right, and more of the gentle rolling hills, right? That's what we're looking for in the nervous system. It's not that we don't have stressors, right? That's the other thing that's important, right? We can get angry or upset with ourselves or really judgmental or critical of ourselves because we're having a stress response, right? And the stress response, once again, we're supposed to have a stress response, right? Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and I hear it evening out a little bit. So a few more rounds here. Continuing to breathe. Finding that rhythm. Beautiful. And then we'll end today with the 222, which is also just really lovely. This one immediately brings a calm into my heart space. It sounds like almost like a church bell. Yeah. So just letting the sound wash over you, and once again inviting in maybe a softening of the shoulders, a pressing into even more the support underneath you. Maybe you spread your hips apart, unclench your glutes a little more, just allowing in a little more of that openness. And once again, without any expectation, there's no right or wrong way. We're just noticing what we notice, and I'm going to use the word one more time, inviting in, right? Helping to come out of survival mode. Even just a little bit. 1%. Maybe you notice 50% of your body softening. All right, my loves. Feel free to stay where you're at if this feels like a supportive place to be and you've got time. And I invite anybody who's new here to sign up for Somatic Self Healers so you get promotions and updates and all the things. And I'll send these recordings directly to you as well. And There's all information, of course. You can get all the information down there. Down there. Right? Okay. All right, my loves. Have a beautiful day.